What's going on, everybody? Zera back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about the impact in the 1 month prior to release of Classic. So we've got some things to go over here. Number one being the fact that we got 1 month, boys. It is July 29th. Between the fact that, you know, there's so much to do in live servers right now. I myself am trying to get flying, and wouldn't you know it, I essentially have Pathfinder Part 2 because I'm revered with Mechagon, I'm revered with Nazjatar, but I don't have revered with all of the, you know, other 6 factions that you should have already gotten if you'd played a significant amount of time prior to 8.2. So, and also I need to do a certain amount of world quests. I have to do a certain amount of the war campaign. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't done yet, and it's just, you know, it's basically gated. I know I can only do so many world quests at a time, especially considering the fact that I got a full-time job, I got a wife, raising a family. You know, there's a lot of things that go into this. So, but slowly but surely, I'm sure over the next 30 days before Classic releases that I'm going to be able to knock this out. Let me take this off. So, not too worried about that, but one thing that does kind of intrigue me is, even though they're completely 2 separate teams, the Classic team and the live servers, the thing that's going to be interesting is how they're going to impact one another, how they're going to play off one another. And with the fact that 8.2 is released and Method just downed, as of yesterday, downed the world first boss, you know, world first Queen Zera on Mythic in Eternal Palace, I feel like 8.2 is going to start calming down a little bit, because number one, anything that's been out there for people to discover, for people to find, that wasn't necessarily, you know, front and center in the PTR has already come and gone. I feel like a lot of people are full swing. Most people that you know, are hardcore players probably already have flying, and the rest of us are either still working on it or going to have it in a day or two. The other thing to consider too is there's a lot of talk about alts not really being a thing. I wouldn't necessarily worry about that, because I think Blizzard is well aware of how difficult it would be for you to do things with alts. And I have no doubt that probably by the time 8.2.5 comes out, there's probably going to be a catch-up mechanic for things like, you know, your essences and so on and so forth, reputation. My guess is pathfinding is probably going to be account wide. You know, they're going to do all kinds of stuff, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it would not surprise me. Blizzard's done this before, and it would not surprise me if they turn around and do it again. Now, as far as, you know, all these leaks about, you know, all this stuff concerning the next expansion, I'm not going to put any stock in the expansion leaks. Some of them have sounded pretty good, but that's the problem. Sometimes they sound a little too good. The only thing that I will take stock into is the fact that Blizzard has come out and stated, their devs have even come out and stated that they are aware that they made a mistake pruning the classes too much and really just going too far with not only class pruning, but also trying to isolate more and more class specific via talents and not the actual class fantasy as a whole. Like what we had in MOP was perfect, even though Blizzard considered that to be a little too much oversaturation with the classes, because we all had a ton of different tools and buttons to push, and they thought that was bad for game design. And I'm like, I saw their point, but you took pruning way too far. Let's find the middle ground. Let's get back to classes having a lot of great and unique utility that makes it a ton of fun to play a class, makes it a ton of fun to press buttons. And you know what? Let's even go a little bit further and dial back the global cooldowns. I'm not gonna lie, I can't stand this global cooldown change. It pisses me off. I'm sitting here trying to slam intimidation on my hunter, and it's not doing anything. My pet will sit there, and I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, I've been mashing Mongoose Bite, and I'm trying to, you know, stun this caster behind me. Like, it's not going to work because intimidation's on the global cooldown, which doesn't make any sense since it's a, you know, form of crowd control and an interrupt. It should not be on the global cooldown, but it is. So there's, and not to mention the fact, coordinated assault, murder of crows, big DPS cooldowns, my essence, it's all a little too much. And I understand where Blizzard came from with the initial reaction, but they had a knee-jerk reaction to this. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't at all a game design problem, more so than it was just, hey, if you don't want us, combining 4, 5, or 6, 7 abilities all at once, then maybe you might want to consider combining those abilities as opposed to just outright getting rid of them. Or, as far as not necessarily getting completely rid of them out of our spell book, but I mean just getting rid of them via, getting rid of them via global cooldown changes. That was a bad change. And I have no doubt Blizzard's going to make all those changes necessary in the next expansion. They're probably not going to do it throughout the remainder of 8.2.5 or 8.3. It probably, the earliest that these kind of changes will probably come, and again, this is all speculation, but they've come out and they've said, hey, we made a mistake, we went too far with this, and we're going to change it back. The only question is, what exactly does that translate to? Does that mean that global cooldown is going to go away, entirely? The global cooldown changes, rather, and are a lot of the class abilities we lost in MOP, are they going to come back? We don't know. We just don't know. We could get brand spanking new abilities we've never even seen before. It could be a whole host of things. But my guess is those kind of class changes are not coming in until pre-patch for next expansion. I guarantee you, because they have already, don't kid yourselves on this, 8.2.5 and 8.3 are already in full development swing. My guess is 8.2.5 is already ready to go on the PTR, and 8.3 is probably getting polished to go on the PTR. My guess is if they're doing anything with 8.2.5 or 8.3, it's things like voiceovers for cinematics, polishing up CGI cinematics, all that good stuff. That's probably all they're doing. So with that being said, let's move on to Classic. So the fact that live servers are in this position that they're in, it puts Classic in a very unique position because it's launching. Now, they pushed back the stress server, the global release stress test, and we're going to have one more of those. I think this will be the third one we've had in the last 6 months. And it'll be very interesting to see because this is going to be accessible to everybody. As far as I know, if anybody at any point has either opted in for the beta, or potentially not just necessarily people who opted in for beta, but I mean everybody. They may just give everybody, because here's the thing, they want this to be as true to the launch day as humanly possible. Because I think this is going to be their last chance to give players a real world look at what it's going to be like on Classic launch day in less than a month away. So it would make more sense for them to say, you know what, we're not doing the beta anymore. This isn't the beta. This is the actual Classic client. This is the actual client. So we're going to make this accessible to everybody with a live subscription, which is going to make it even more crazy than it was during the beta portion when it was just access to the beta. People who'd opted in for the beta got the stress test accessibility. So now it's going to be like a true, crapshoot. I mean, it's going to be absolutely nutso kind of level of craziness because everybody that has access to the live servers is now going to have access to Classic for the global stress test. Now, again, this was not stated anywhere. I'm just assuming because it just makes sense to me. So that's probably why they decided, you know what, we need to wait because we're not ready for this. We need to polish up the last few changes that we need to change on the live servers and focus on that, focus on pushing that. And the Classic team can spend their efforts in the last 2 or 3 weeks before we decide to announce the final global stress test. Hey, this is what we need to do. These are the things we need to fix, the bugs, the patches, whatever. And then the global stress test will be ready. Because if we don't, guess what's going to happen? If these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 glitches are in there, we are going to get flooded. I mean, absolutely flooded with, you need to fix this, you need to fix this, you need to fix this, from people who haven't had access to the beta or previously global stress test in the past. So we fix most of these minor problems, and then we're going to be able, it's going to free us up to be able to focus on things maybe we didn't catch before, or maybe something new. Those are the kind of things, I'm sure that's exactly why they pushed the global stress test off. So, after the global stress test, right? By the way, if you've never played Classic, or if you've played Classic but it's been a long time, here's your chance. Here's your opportunity. You didn't have access to the beta? Well, neither did I. Global Stress Test was the only access I've had to this. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be pushing 1 to 15, probably. I think it's going to be up for 48 hours. And unless they completely change the time of the week that this Global Stress Test has been, usually it's around Wednesday, Thursday time frame is when it's been. That is actually perfect for me because those are my days off. I'm off those days every single week. So I told my wife, hey, when it comes out, when this happens, hopefully it's going to happen during the week when she's, on call at the hospital, because I'm going to be killing it. I'm going to be going absolutely crazy with it. My goal is to push 1 to 15 10 times. That's my goal. I want to push 1 to 15 10 times, and I want to get 1 to 10 in under 2 hours, and I want to get 1 to 15 in under, 2:45, maybe 2 hours 45 minutes, and that's including all of the hunter quests for the pet. So that's a lot of ground to cover. That's a huge goal to set, and I think that if I can get ahead of the curve, because if I can get from, during an actual global stress test, if I can get close to, 1 to 10 in 2 to 2.5 hours, and 1 to 15 in 3 to 3.5 hours, if I can get that down, that's going to be a huge benefit to me, and it's going to put me ahead of the curve, because the faster I get ahead of the crowd, way better off I'm going to be. I've already decided I'm taking 12 days off from work to, of course, half of those are actual weekend days that I'd already have off anyway. I'm only actually taking off 6 days from work. It's PTO. But anyway, the goal here is to try and just get ahead of the crowd, get ahead of the curve. That's the plan. Now, once Classic is in full swing, and live servers are probably in full swing with 8.2.5 come September, what is that going to mean? Well, most likely by the time we get to September, Classic is going to be in full swing as far as people getting into Oni, MC, clearing, guilds already, either having it on full clear, most guilds, or getting close to having it on full clear. So at this point, it's really going to be up to Blizzard about what they want to do, how they're going to do this, because we're getting 6 phases of Classic. The first phase we're getting is going to be Oni, MC at launch. Phase 2 is going to be Dire Maul, so on and so forth, and it's going to trickle down from there. Now, my guess is that we don't have an exact time frame for when phases are going to happen, just like we don't have exact phases, other than, we know 8.2.5 is coming, and the fact we know 8.3 is eventually coming. We don't really have a timetable. Now, based on, compared to what we have 15 years to compare to, live servers of the past, where, it was 77 days, et cetera, between major patches. If I had to guess, I would say 8.2.5 is going to release, and then probably within a month after that, whenever things are kind of like now with 8.2, things in full swing, people have really captured the potential that they could gain from it. My guess is that about a month after 8.2.5 is when we're going to get Dire Maul. Just a guess. I may be off my rocker, I don't know. And then, I think it's just going to continue to trickle down from there. A month after 8.3, after that, that's when we're probably going to get things like, BGs or ZG or whatever it was that's going to come after Dire Maul. There's a lot of, I think it'll be Blackwing Lair. Yeah, ZG wouldn't come before Blackwing Lair. So there's a lot of things to go into this. We're really just at the mercy of Blizzard. I mean, it's an unfortunate fact. I mean, I'm sure all of us we just want Classic to be here already. We want to enjoy it, want to play it. Like, screw live servers. But don't say that necessarily, because there's a huge benefit to this. Number one, I know BFA has got this negative connotation. It's really popular to hate on BFA, but I'm not going to lie. Since 8.2's launched, I love Mechagon. Mechagon's probably my favorite zone. Nazjatar is all right. My previous video, I mentioned a lot of problems I don't like with it. So, every expansion has its flaws, and I think BFA has a litany of flaws that plague it. But I don't think it's by far the worst expansion. And matter of fact, there's probably one especially, and y'all already know what it is. Not even going to waste my breath mentioning it by name. But there's probably another expansion that has been received even more negatively over the years. And I think BFA is going to go down as a kind of a hit and miss expansion. It had its good points, but it obviously didn't really nail it as far as the actual details and the plot devices and everything else behind what they aimed for. They got that right. What they missed on was how it actually played out in the long run. The actual Heart of Azeroth was a good idea, but how they implemented its armors and its abilities, things you can unlock with Azerite power, that was a miss. You missed that one by a mile. But Blizzard's trying. They're trying to come up with new and innovative ways. And for the most part, this kind of system is still in its infancy. If you think about it, you had legendaries in Legion, which were great, except for the fact of how you got them. RNG was terrible. And the other thing that you had to consider also was the artifact weapons. I'm not gonna lie, I loved the artifact weapons, and I wish they'd bring them back. I do. I thought the artifact weapons was incredible. It had a linear progression that you could branch out in a couple of different directions, and it eventually had a cutting off point to where, okay, you can't go beyond this point. And then once they released 7.2.5 or whatever it was, where you could finally push beyond your final talent in the artifact weapons, then it really just became just an item level buff, and you felt a little bit more powerful every time you got it, and you didn't really feel the need to chase after a certain level. Whereas, and right now a lot of people are like, oh my god, I have to get to 55, I have to get to 55, I have to get to 55. You didn't really have that with the artifact weapon. As long as you were playing at a mediocre rate over the course of the lifetime of the expansion, you weren't really hurting, you weren't really behind it all. So it's got its Legion had a lot of high points, and it had fewer low points than high points, whereas in BFA is kind of 50-50. It's got its up points, there's no doubt. Most of them more recent in my memory, but it's definitely had a lot of low points, and I think that's a lot of people are more quick to, especially with the most recent expansion, because it's so popular to hate on something. Society-wise, you want to hate on something that everybody else is hating on. So, but I think bringing Classic in is going to bring some new life. It's going to get some fresh eyes on World of Warcraft that probably haven't played WoW in, not even as far back as, 13 years when Vanilla initially was, erased with BC. I'm talking like people who haven't played for maybe as short a time as 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, there's going to be a ton of different people coming back to see World of Warcraft as they remember it in their mind, what got them hooked in the first place. And maybe they didn't like the changes that occurred in Cataclysm when the old world was wiped out. Okay, they come, and they left and they never came back. Maybe they didn't like the changes with MoP. I know a lot of people hate it. It was popular to hate on the pandas, even though I think MoP was the best expansion. I think there was a lot of things that people are going to return to the game for, and it's going to give them an opportunity to not only enjoy the nostalgia in the and make new memories in Classic, but it's also going to go a long way towards allowing them to get some eyes on Live and get their hands on the current expansion, and they're going to realize, what, this ain't half bad. This isn't half bad. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who probably going to check it out and be like, oh my god, why can't I have flying? Like, I want to fly, and yet you're going to have so much to do to get flying, because I'm like I said, I'm learning that now. I'm trying to get flying, and it's a pain in the butt, because even though I've gotten Nagitar and Mechagon taken care of, all that's taken care of. I have Rustbolt Resistance and, Waveblade and Akoan. All that stuff is done. I still got everybody else, the other six reps that I need to get, including champions for Azeroth, blah 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 blah. All that stuff I gotta start over from scratch, and it kind of sucks. I had to clear all the zones. I had to do all this stuff, level from 110 to 120. It's not easy. I mean, if you haven't played since day one, these kind of stuff is kind of annoying, and but I can't blame Blizzard for not dialing that back for Pathfinder Part 1 just yet. I know in 8.2.5 they'll probably do it, which means that people who come in and come in from Classic are probably going to have some sort of an easier time than I am right now. So I think Blizzard's smart. They'll figure it out. Their name's Blizzard for a reason. They know what they're doing. I just don't want to I don't want anybody to kid themselves. This is new territory for everybody. For us, for Blizzard, for everybody. This is not something that's been done before. It's to this level, to this scale. Yes, you have games like Diablo 3 Diablo 2, Diablo 1, you can go back and play over and over and over. Yes, you've got games like, you know, Doom, for example, who just came out with the whole Doom 1, Doom 2 debacle. There's a whole lot of different things. But we're talking running 2 separate MMOs and 2 completely separate iterations of themselves. We're talking the original version that's, you know, 13 to 15 years old, and we're talking about the modern version that's had 15 years to evolve. And now you're talking about running them collectively at the same time, concurrently. That's new territory. So we don't really know what to expect as far as the impact it's going to have. We can only speculate, and that's what this video was about. So anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, be sure to click the subscribe button, and also be sure to hit that bell for notifications, and also be sure to check out the links down below for, you know, access to my Patreon, so on and so forth. If you want to join the Discord and just chat with me one-on-one, Patreon is going to be the way to do that. And also, you'll have access to the text channels where you can actually submit video ideas for the future. Let me know down in the description what you thought. I'll see you guys in the next video. Love you as always. Stay salty, and I'll see you next time. Zera's out.